What up, bye babes? Okay, so in today's video I wanted to talk about not feeling man enough as a bisexual man. There's this incredible series on YouTube called Man Enough, and it is hosted by Justin Baldoni. He's an actor most famously known for being on Jane the Virgin. So in this series he assembles a panel of different guys from different walks of life, and they talk about masculinity and femininity and what it means to be a man. Really, really great series. I'm going to link it, and I definitely recommend checking it out. Now, I wanted to turn things onto being a bisexual man and be specific about this. When I think about the hashtag that I started, BisexualMenSpeak, I almost didn't start it, and a huge reason for that is because of how I've always felt really disconnected to the idea of being a boy or being a man because of the things that I've went through as a child. I was constantly told that I wasn't boy enough, I didn't do things in a right boy way. And then as I got older and my sexuality started to develop, that intensified. And even as a man now, I still feel like a bit of a distance from that. And for a while I was kind of questioning whether I was non-binary or what this was about, but I gave voice to this around a lot of my male friends who were queer, and they spoke about feeling a bit of a disconnect from being a man because of always being invalidated, always being told that I'm too feminine. And so, like I said, Bisexual Men Speak, the hashtag, almost didn't happen because I didn't think that I would have any value, because I didn't think that my experiences as a man would be of any value to anyone else. And in a lot of ways I didn't feel like I had the authority to speak as a man. And if my experience has been like this, I can only imagine women's experience. I can only imagine the experience of non-binary people who are women aligned. It is really something that we devalue femininity so much, and we as a society view it as weakness, and that has all kinds of effects on the ways that we see ourselves and the way we see the world. So as a bisexual man specifically, when it comes to like not feeling man enough, there are all of these ideas that say to be attracted to a man is a feminine trait, and just that femininity is not something to aspire to, and it's all about masculinity and being rugged and all of these, antiquated ideas about gender that go into performance and falsehood, and nobody is one way all of the time. Finding that balance for you between masculinity and femininity, or just existing without these sort of labels and stuff, is key and is paramount. I find the way that I perform changes depending on who I'm around, and especially if I'm attracted to them. If I am attracted to a woman or a man or a non-binary person, I find myself just kind of very naturally holding back or putting on this sort of persona and making attempts at what I think is masculine or what I think masculinity looks like, because in all of these ways I get these messages that say that masculinity is desirable and femininity is not desirable, at least not as a cis man. And I was talking to one of my friends and I was saying there are more important things than being desirable, and one of them is just kind of being comfortable in your own skin and not feeling like you always have to perform, especially not around somebody that you're attracted to. There's this thing with bi men specifically, so many of us attach so much of our self-worth to how attractive we are to women, and I think that is really, really dangerous, and I think that it is really, really unhealthy. And the thing about gender, like I've spoken about on this channel, is that it conditions us and it prescribes how we should be rather than accepting us how we are. However we come out, it tells us, no, you have to be like this, you're a boy, you have to be like this, you're a girl, you have to be like this. And in addition to that, it also tells us that you are only part of a whole. You are not whole on your own, or you're part of the man, woman pie. And until you find your other half, you are not complete. And that is a really damaging anti-queer sort of rhetoric. As the days go on, I just find myself divesting from that sentiment more and more every day. I find myself divesting from the need to feel desirable to women, to men, to anybody really. When your self-esteem comes from external forces, comes from how attractive you are to women, it is very conditional, and you can lose yourself in that. You can lose yourself in performing. You can lose yourself in wanting to be liked and wanting to be desired. And and I find it to be very, very unhealthy. So nowadays I just constantly check in with myself. How much am I performing in my personal relationships? How much am I performing in general? And is this level of performance really, really necessary for me to get to the next step and to the end of my day? And a lot of times it's not. A lot of times I'm doing too much. I'm doing more than I want to do. I'm extending way too much energy. I care too much about what this person thinks of me because I want them to like me or find me attractive. It's a cage. It's a trap. This really has a way of attacking the psyche and making us feel like we don't measure up to this idea of what it is to be a man. And you know, the stereotypes around bi men, that there are no bi men that exist and that all of us are really gay in the end. And obviously I've talked a lot about that on this channel, about how phallocentric that is and how that goes back into prioritizing men and prioritizing the penis and all of that sort of stuff. It's easy to say that aloud, but these messages go really, really deep. So I did want to start there, and then I wanted to move on to talk about, I remember when I was getting ready to talk to my little brother about having safe sex and things like consent. I was getting myself ready and I had plenty of time. So I remember in preparation, as he would get older every single day, I'm like, okay, well, it's coming. I'm gonna have to talk to him about it sooner or later. And I remember a lot of what came up for me was, I don't want to infect him with my queerness. I don't want to turn him bi or turn him gay. And like I've mentioned in another video, this about the gay agenda, it really can seep into the way you see yourself, seeing yourself as though there is something wrong with you or as though you're infected and it can spread to other people, and how that can really mess with your self-esteem. And this is a really specific way that I have noticed a lot of queer men feel the same way too. It's like I wanted to get ready and I wanted to speak to him about this stuff, and I was feeling inadequate in ways. I was like, oh well, my experience as a feminine bi man might not be enough for him. And I was really in my feelings. I was like, wow, well, we have different lives. You know, when I grew up, I wasn't accepted by a ton of boys, but he is into sports and he is into these things, and what I might have to offer is probably not enough. Like I said, a lot of queer men have this experience. A lot of queer men feel confident and happy in their everyday lives for the most part, but then when you move to the next level of talking to the young people in our lives, talking to the young men specifically about sex, safe sex, and things like consent, that's when we start to feel not good enough, not man enough. And the way that I overcame that was really just by educating myself. What does an 11-year-old boy need to know about safe sex? And just kind of taking some of myself out of it. And it can be an awkward thing, but it doesn't have to be. And it doesn't have to be this one big giant sex talk where you cover all of the bases. Sex is so vast and complex, so I try to talk to him all the time about sex, you know what I mean? But yeah, these were my experiences, and I just kind of wanted to share them and open up the conversation. And I would love to hear from you all about feeling man enough or not feeling man enough, and the ways that this has impacted your interpersonal relationships. And if you have any particular story that you would like to share, I would love to hear from all of you in the comment section below. So leave me a comment, give me a thumbs up, subscribe, turn your notifications on, and I will see you next week. See you later, bye babes.